Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Becky here from Ivy's Corner. I'm here today to do a very quintessential Zentangle pattern. So one that you will almost always be taught first if you are doing a beginner's lesson in the Zentangle method. This tangle is a real classic, and so much so that the Zentangle HQ team have done a whole project pack dedicated to it. Do you know which one it is? It is Crescent Moon. So if you haven't heard of Crescent Moon before, this, as I said, is a real classic tangle that is often taught, usually always taught in the first lessons, and it gives you a real introduction into several different elements of the Zentangle method, including a really important one called aura. So in front of me here, before we get cracking on the tangle, just to go through my materials, I have a small 2" by 2" square tile. I have my Micron PN, a Zentangle pencil and a tortillon. And what I'm going to do is just give myself a space on this little tile here to tangle within. And it's going to be, I'm going to just kind of do a rough circle-ish sort of shape. So you know, it's a bit of a funny blob on my tile, but that's my string. And I'm going to pick up my pen and dive straight in here with Crescent Moon. And now the way to draw Crescent Moon is to begin with some nice semicircles that are going to be placed around the edge of our tile, like so. So just taking our time, and we can make these any size. I always recommend when you first start with Zentangle to draw bigger than you think you need to, because it's quite usually we work on small formats. I think it's a good idea to draw slightly larger than you might initially feel that you want to, because it gives you, especially in the early days of tangling, it gives you the opportunity to learn a bit more about shading. Now you'll see here that I'm starting to ink these spaces in, so I'm just going to go all the way around my tile and ink in my nice little semicircles, or ladybug shapes, as often the Zentangle HQ team will refer to them. So just taking my time. And the nice thing about this tangle is that it is an easy tangle, a beginner's tangle, but it gives you a sense of drama. There's this inky nature of this tangle with some solid ink spaces, and it's lovely to kind of fill a little bit of the space with this ink and generate a little bit of drama about a tile. So I'm just taking my time and just enjoying filling these spaces in. And I really do like to go into all the little white spaces. Sometimes it's quite tempting to not kind of take the time to fill all the spaces in, but it's really nice to kind of get that contrast and have that really nice deep black ink that flows out of your pen and just really get all of those white spaces filled. Sometimes these pens take a little while to dry, so if you're adding a lot of ink to them, I would say just make sure that you're not running your hand over it or anything like that. It's quite quick, but I would say just be aware of any inky space, that it doesn't smudge or blotch on your hand. So there are my lovely semicircular spaces around the edge of my string. And the next step, which is key to this particular tangle, is going to be to add our auras. Now, aura in Zentangle is just the act of drawing around a shape that already exists. So we don't have to think about it too much. We're just going to keep some nice consistently widthed auras coming out of these different spaces. And I'm going to go all the way around my tile once again and just add my auras here. So again, taking it nice and slowly and just allowing the shape that's already there to guide me as to where to go. And you'll notice that I'm drawing, I'm right-handed, so I'm drawing my auras towards here. So the shape or the line that I'm auraing is on the left and my pen is on the right, so I can see what it is that I'm drawing around. And that just allows me to be a little more precise. If you're left-handed, you would want to do it the other way around probably. So now I've auraed all of these spaces, I'm going to go through and do the same thing again. And eventually I might find that my auras start coming quite close together and almost bumping into each other. So we'll see. I feel like here that's already starting. So I'm just going to begin the line here and come to the edges. And here there's no space for me to bring this aura line down in between. So what I'm going to do is stop here and just continue on. Now there's a few different ways of doing these auras. As a beginner, kind of beginner tangle, I recommend doing it this way just to get the sense of how it works for you. But again, here I've run out of space, so I'm going to pause and then continue the line and just bump this aura line all the way around. Like so, continuing my line all the way around. And these auras are going to fill all of this space into the centre. So it kind of looks like a spider web, I think. Almost like a, yeah, spider web or some other kind of pattern, natural pattern like that. Turning my tile as I go. And just enjoying that repetition until my line can go no further and we stop in the centre. So that is all of our line work for Crescent Moon. And I'm now going to show you the magic. It is really magic, this one, I think. The shading is often one of my favourite bits of tangling anyway, but I think with this particular tangle, it really does make a big difference. So I'm going to pick up my pencil and I'm going to start off by just adding a nice chunk of graphite right in the middle there. And then I'm going to follow these lines up. So keeping the graphite quite kind of precise to there, but I'm going to blend it with the tortillon. And I want to make sure that I'm not going to take any of this graphite into the middle of these sections here. So when I do use my tortillon, I'm going to be very careful not to do that. Some little circles. And I'm using the side of my pencil so that it's not pushing down too much into the paper. So that's the basic shading, and I think you can already see how cool this is going to look. I'm now going to come in with my tortillon and just make some little circles round and round and softening this graphite, not taking it too far away from where it's been placed and not coming into this white centre here, because if you want to make sure you have retained some white highlights, as otherwise there's no contrast to give you the effect of the shading. But you can see just by taking the edge off of those harsh lines of graphite, this looks a lot more natural, and all of a sudden we have these disappearing columns that disappear down into the centre. You can always come back in with a little more graphite to make it darker in the middle, but that is the basic shading for Crescent Moon, and I love it. I think it looks really, really cool. I'm also quickly going to add a little bit of graphite around the edge here, so it kind of makes it look as if this whole pattern is disappearing into like a hole almost. And you'll notice that I'm not placing graphite on the black parts that I've inked in here, because they are, if I add graphite, they'll just end up looking a little bit less black. And we want to retain that lovely inky black. And I'm just very gently softening this and taking away the harsh edges. But you can see how this is now making it look a little bit like it's disappearing down below the hole on the tile. And there you have it. That is Crescent Moon. That is probably one of the first tangles you will learn in a beginner's lesson. It certainly is if you do one of my beginner's lessons, which are available on my website as a free introduction lesson and also a beginner's course of 3 different lessons. Please do hit like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. I am sharing lots of tangles all the time, so you can learn even more to add them to your repertoire. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram or whatever other social media you use to show me how you have used this tangle and what you create with it. You can reach me on @ivies_corner_arts on most channels, and use the hashtag Ivies Corner as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.